Well, hi guys. It is the 28th of June, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the 1850 at this point. Um, I kind of jumped ahead in the videos to get, start showing field work. And, well, I got a couple of days worth of work out of this old girl. The first day of the video, first day I used it, you saw that, a chisel plow. The next day, I didn't get any video of it, but went down to McHenry's and had Harry come up to look at this thing, how it was running. And he agrees the injector pump has definitely been turned up. No two ways about that. He took it out and ran it. Same fourth direct as I was. And he ran the piss out of it to see what was going on. One of the things we did, we shut it off hot. When we did that, once it started back up, would not start till we poured water over the top of the injector pump. And he said that told him a lot. He said more than likely this pump needs to be rebuilt. Kind of figured it. But what you guys haven't seen yet, I took this down to McHenry's to have some work done. Those videos, I'm still going to put them up, but things are going to get jumbled. There are things on this tractor I can do, I can fix. There are things I can't. The steering column on it was loose. You could take it like this. It was just loose. And after looking at it at the parts book breakdown for about 3 days, I couldn't figure out how that thing was put together, which is unusual for me. So I took it down and had him fix the steering column, tighten it up, which means you got to disassemble it to get to the nut on the bottom of the shaft under everything. While it was there, he adjusted the PTO clutch, which I tried to adjust 4 different times, and I could not get that adjuster ring to move. It was stuck. Stuck from never being adjusted. In fact, it had I guess you could say there was a spot wore in the threads where that ring had been and never moved from, causing a problem. But I got that fixed. It has a new battery in it. While it was there, I bought a new 63 amp Chevy alternator, put it on, and he rewired it. So I did away with the voltage regulator. That's what it went down for. Now, when he got done with it, he didn't have a whole lot to work on, and he agreed that it wasn't running quite right. So he started tinkering with it. I had stopped in and seen him and come back, well, it was a day later, and sitting in the shop, all the sheet metal off, the fuel tank up in the air, and the injector's out. He said, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, what's that? Give me the bad news first. He said, your injectors are shut. I said, how much are they? He said, I can put new tips in it for 60 apiece. Or I can put new ones in for 60 apiece. I said, do it. You know. He said, well, I figured that's what you'd say, so I got to set on order. They're coming. He said, I said, what's the other bad news? He said, no bad news. Good news. He said, well, I had a party, said I figured I might as well run a compression check. And he said, I did it the first time, and thought maybe my gauge was wrong, so I got my old set of gauges out, put on it, come up with the same readings. And I said, well, what's bad about that? And he says, it's good. You're running 325 to 350 pounds on all 6 cylinders. 25 variants. I thought that was pretty good. That made my day. And it surprised him because he figured it was in the 150, 200 pound range. He said, I'd have never dreamed it had the compression that it's got. And he said, that means you must have got the valve set right. So I was happy about that. But he said, one thing he did find was it was out of time. And it was advanced 5 to 7 degrees. We don't know exactly, but you guys that have done 8 times an 1850 diesel, there's a cutout in the side here. You take the plug out of it, roll the flywheel around to where you see the mark on the flywheel, there's a pin inside. When they line up, that's number 1 top dead center. And the injector pump was set to that. Lines lined up. So he had to take the front of this apart, loosen the screws on that gear, and turn it back. So we now know, well, we think it's in time. I don't know why it was advanced, but it was. He told me that the fuel did not look exactly quite right to him. And probably ought to drain it, get some fresh farm diesel put in it. And he said, run the piss out of it. Get all that burn out of it. So that's what I did. Drained the fuel, purged the lines, the filters, everything. Got new fuel in it. You know, got everything bled out. When I went to the field with it, it had that fresh fuel in it. Of course, you know, I put the new air filter. I've checked the air system, which is really short on this tractor because air filter is right here. On the back side, it's got an elbow down to a 4-inch hose, and it connects right to the intake manifold. So there's not a lot to have to worry about. And it's all clean. I agree with him. It's in this pump. Because all the injectors have new tips, they're rebuilt, and they're set back to factory specs. Because they were firing, before he changed them, they were firing between 1200 to 1500 psi instead of 2000. So the old tips being bad as they were, it was the reason this thing was slobbering so bad. Does not slobber anymore at all. But as it stands right now, my game plan is, once I get the wheat cut and the beans no-tilled into the stubble as double crops, and I'll have time at that point to work on this. And this pump's coming off and getting rebuilt. What aggravates me is I can buy a rebuild kit from Perkins to rebuild this entire injector pump with new vanes for less than 50 bucks. But I don't have any way to test it. I could rebuild it, but I can't check or test it. All I could do is rebuild it, stick it on, get it primed up, and run it. I can't change any of the settings because I don't know how. And Cincinnati Diesel Injection said $1,500 up to rebuild it. I'm not doing it. I refuse to do that. I'll either do it myself and live with it, or find somebody that works on these on the side and have them do it. But the old girl did good. I run it the first day of chisel plowing, second day of chisel plowing, and you've seen, we'll see in the video, I hooked the moldboard plow up to it. And once I got done with that, I started disking with it, and she threw a hissy fit out in the field. By meaning that I had plowed 6 or 7 acres, and it was pulling hard because that ground was incredibly hard. It was wet, but it was really hard. And she was working. I mean, really working. Some of it. Got done with it, unhooked the plow, hooked the disc up, I started disking. Disc for a couple of hours. Pulled it under the shade tree, idled it down, got off, got me something to drink and cooled off myself. Got back on it, maybe had gone 50, 75 feet down into the field with a load, and all at once this thing just started shaking violently. I mean, really shaking. And running, popping and cracking and spitting and carrying on like you wouldn't believe. That's it. Yanked the throttle down, hit the clutch, raised the disc up, pulled her off to the edge of the field, dropped the disc, brought it up here and put it back in the barn. And I'm pretty sure part of its problem, well, it's in the injector pump, but it's also in this injector pump drive. Get you over here to where you can see this. Hopefully you can hear it once the car goes by. But you can get a hold of this end shaft. There's lashing the gears in here. And I can do it. Nope. It's got end play. Back and forth. Which will throw that timing out on this pump a little bit. But after she had her hissy fit, you couldn't turn this at all. Took a pair of pliers to it and moved it up and down real easy, back and forth gently, and you could kind of feel a crunch, like there might have been shavings, because this is a brass worm gear driving a steel gear. Now, it may have got hot and started to vapor lock, you might say, and coupled with the gears being worn, it might have been just enough to cause it to grab a hold of that brass worm gear and start to cut a new thread. I'm just saying it's a possibility. I haven't seen any metallic in the oil, And it'll start and it'll run, but it's not running right. It's got a sputter and spit in it, which may be the impeller might have come apart. I don't know. All I do know is this pump needs to be rebuilt. But I'm kind of in a, getting ready to try to cut wheat. A lot of things going on, and I don't have time right at the moment to tear into this thing. There's been a lot going on in the last couple of weeks. In about 2 weeks' time, I got all my crops. I got the ground worked up, planted. I got beans across the road sprayed and was burned down and no-tilled in. And got done with my stuff, and I planted a 20-acre field for a guy. And the tractor is sitting right now down at this other place. There's 35 acres there. I'm going to plant when it dries up again, which I don't know when that'll be. But this old girl did good on her first run. I don't know how long the tractor sat. I know 2 years that I know of for sure. Probably more like 3, maybe 4 before that, so you just don't know. And I have no idea how many hours are on this particular engine. But she's gonna get fixed, and she's gonna be right when I'm done. So hope the videos in the future make sense to you, because I'm kind of jumping out of order. I knew you guys wanted to see her working ground, so that's what you're going to see for now. And you'll get some other videos of what I've been doing to this thing. You'll get them here shortly. I brought it home from McHenry's thinking everything's fixed, and I get this weird noise. And don't you know the water pump went out? I checked that pump before I bought it. I've checked it 4 times since. Harry checked that pump that day before it left. I drove it back home and the pump went out. So I got a new water pump put in. And while I took everything off the front, of course the radiator and the front end was loose. Wheels were kind of dancing, going down the road like this. The gear on top of the shaft was loose. So I got into it and tightened it up. There's a lot of stuff you haven't seen yet that I've done to this tractor. But those videos will be coming. It's time to get these tillage videos and planting videos and fieldwork videos up and done. So that's why they're kind of jumbled up here, guys. So pardon me. I've got to do what I got to do here. But she will get fixed. She will get fixed for sure. Bill, she hasn't told me her name yet. She's being a little bit tight-lipped on that one. A little shy still. She said she feels naked without her cab on it. So I might have to put it back on before she tells me her name. But all in all, she's done a great job. It's just, this is an issue. This is the only thing in the fuel system I have not touched yet. And it's the only thing. Fuel tank was changed. I went through all these fuel lines, discovered I had line on the other side that was partially blocked. I replaced the line, cut it out. There's a new fuel filter over there. This filter got changed. Discovered there was a problem here at this fitting where it had been cross-threaded at some point in its life and it would not tighten up and it was gripping. That got fixed. And you've seen all the coolant lines and all that happy stuff, and I did get the right fittings to replace the mess on the other side that go from the water pump up to the oil cooler. I found the right fittings. You'll see those too. But guys, I'm going to call it here. We've got about an inch and a quarter's worth of rain in the last 3 days. See, it's wet around here right now. There's water standing for the first time in a good while. But I'm going to call it a day. Time to go home and get some other things done. Get another video ready for you guys. So we'll see you next time, guys. And as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. Hit that like button, give it a thumbs up, and ring that bell for new notifications. We'll see you next time, guys. Old girl's done a good job, I think. Just got to get the bugs worked out of her. See you next time, guys.